And we come to you with breaking news for our 13 Now update. Team coverage right now on the latest information on two Saratoga County Sheriffs deputies shot early this morning at an apartment complex in Clifton Park. Tessa Bentulin standing by. She is speaking with people at that complex on what they heard, what they saw. And Dan Levy has been gathering the latest details from authorities on what's going on. So let's bring in Dan Levy first to find out, Dan, what have you learned in terms of the investigation going on and what you're hearing from the Saratoga County Sheriff today?
Well, good afternoon to you, Sabrina. You know, there are many areas in the capital region where folks constantly complain to me, well, they complain to lots of people, that there are gunshots at any time of the day and night. Suburban Clifton Park, New York is not one of them. This was a rude awakening for a lot of folks in southern Saratoga County. The neighborhood, a section of the Fox Run apartments, were rudely awakened by the sound of gunfire just after 5 o'clock this morning. Now, this shooting site remains a crime scene at this time, mid-afternoon. Portions of the complex are still cordoned off by yellow crime scene tape, and the forensic experts are there. They're still collecting evidence. Now, this was part of a federal narcotics investigation, and it brought agents from the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency, along with members of the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, to an apartment just after 5 o'clock this morning. Now, they were serving a search warrant, and according to Sheriff Mike Zerlo, that's when things turned very dangerous. Here's what the sheriff had to say a little while ago.
As we made entry into the residence, members of my special ops team took gunfire. They returned gunfire. Two of my deputies were struck. The suspect was also struck, and they're currently all at Albany Med being treated at this time.
O'clock in the afternoon, we do not have updates on the medical conditions of any of the three shooting victims. We are told that the suspect was shot in the head, which seems to be obviously a more serious injury. We're told that one of the deputies was shot in the leg, and one of them was shot in his Kevlar vest, which quite frankly could have saved his life, probably did. We're on our way to the sheriff's office in Boston Spa, where he has scheduled a news conference for 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we expect to hear all sorts of additional information at that time, Sabrina.
And Dan, you pointed out the deputies were wearing Kevlar vests. Thankfully, it looks like they will both be okay, but of course, you'll find out those latest details when this news conference starts at 3 o'clock. Dan, thank you very much for that update. We will, of course, find out more details at this news conference that is set to begin in 55 minutes. Let's bring in my colleague, Tessa Bentulin, right now, speaking with people at that apartment complex. Tessa, Dan kind of set the scene for what that complex is like. Of course, Clifton Park, a very suburban area, and to have something like this happen in a place like that, I think has rattled people even more so than usual.
Yeah, and it's not only Dan that has set the scene for us of Clifton Park is usually that quiet neighborhood that most people know in Saratoga County. You don't really see much crime here. But we spoke to this woman who has been living here since last September. She's young, she's 28 years old. And she says that she's been living here since last September, and she's already seen so much happen here. She said in the first week that she moved here, there was a stabbing, and she just recently had to testify to the DA about that stabbing. Then there was another stabbing a couple months later, and then her apartment flooded on Christmas. And then she said on Easter, or the Friday before Easter, she had to call the police again because of a domestic violence dispute in the floor above her. She says she doesn't really feel safe in this apartment complex. She says she feels safe in her apartment because she's got this big dog named Diesel with her, and she has a boyfriend that she lives with, so she's okay in the apartment, but she doesn't really trust anyone here. And unfortunately, she says she's not really surprised this happened at Fox Run. And she did also tell us that there is absolutely no way she's going to be re-signing a lease here. She's already looking to leave and go somewhere else. She was really one of the only people who would talk on camera. We also spoke to a few other people who say, yeah, a lot of them have been living here pretty recently, within the past year, I would say. The ones we spoke to said, yes, comes just after a stabbing from last year, which we actually reported on. So we'll have more details on that for our shows live at 4, 5, and 6. We'll go into that a little bit more, but they also said this comes after a stabbing. They're not very safe here. but there was two other people that drove past who live in the apartment complex behind Fox Run. They're both owned by the same group, the Solomon Group. And she says, "Oh, I've been living here for 4.5 years. I've never had a problem. This is the first I've heard of an issue." But again, she lives in the apartment complex behind Fox Run, but same owners. So it really depends who you speak with. But I've noticed the commonality for most of the people we talk to is that this is not abnormal in this area, in this apartment complex, in a small, quiet Clifton Park neighborhood.
Yeah, a lot of reaction coming out of there as we continue to learn new details on what exactly happened. Tessa Bentulin joining us live from the Clifton Park area as well, gathering details from people at that apartment complex. Tessa, thank you. We'll speak with
Thanks,
you
Sabrina.
live at 4 on air. Thank you so much. If you are just joining us here on 13 Now, we are getting the very latest on the breaking news situation in Clifton Park this morning, 5:20 a.m. DEA task force groups and Saratoga County Sheriff's deputies went to the Fox Run apartments to execute a federal search warrant. This was related to a narcotics investigation. The special ops team, upon entry, took gunfire and 2 deputies were shot and injured. The suspect inside was shot and we're learning is in grave condition. We're trying to find out more details on that person. We also have a breaking update on a homicide investigation in Schenectady that we first reported on yesterday for you. We are now learning the name of the person who was shot and killed at this scene. This was Crane Street yesterday. We brought you the live coverage from there. The person killed, police say, Philemon Henry, 30 years old, at 953 Crane Street. So we are continuing to get the latest details from there as well. So that is the latest on 13 Now. I have been looking at the comments. A lot of people sending us messages, sending prayers and well wishes to the deputies. So we do see those messages. And one person asking who was the shooter. We are still working to confirm that person's identity. But again, there is a press conference starting at 3 o'clock where we will get the very latest for you. And we'll bring that to you live on News Channel 13 at that time. So that is the 13 Now update we have for you right now. Please stay tuned at 3 o'clock. We expect that. We'll bring that to you live on News Channel 13. And of course, the very latest live at 4 right here on News Channel 13. I'm Sabrina Dami. We'll see you then.